It's not at all for kids. Are you kidding me? This movie, anyone who thought this movie was for children never read the book. But it's, like I said, this is when a lot of the resolution happens, and there's a lot of the tension that we've been building is finally resolved, and the bad guy is defeated.
Everything just comes to a head.
Well, it comes to an end, and then it comes to a head, and then it comes to a satisfying resolution. The hobbits are back in the Shire. The last spoken line, "Well, I'm back," is Sam coming into his role as father and husband, which I love. And Sean Astin's daughter's just cute as a button. There's a lot of really sentimental value with these movies for me because I read the books at a young age, and I kind of read them in conjunction with when the movies came out, which just heightened my appreciation for them. And I love these things to death. And Peter Jackson is a great man for having the guts to undertake this.
Yeah. Yeah. A little bit daunting.
A little. Yeah.
But I think The Return of the King is really a rare example of a third movie that works really well.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason is because the epicness of it makes sense for that world.
Yeah.
Like, Matrix trilogy, Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy, Spider-Man trilogy, they all start out as their own thing and try to become, like, they all kind of funnel to this epic third movie that it's like yeah, you can have your identity in the first movie, but by the time you get to the third movie, you have no choice but to be this epic mess.
Well, there's that, and I think that with those franchises, the source material didn't do that. It wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, in this trilogy,
Pirates of the Caribbean ride totally didn't do that.
Exactly, because they had the big bad in the Pirates of the Caribbean in the first movie was Barbossa. Well, then they're like, but we got the money for 2 other movies. What the hell are we gonna do? So then they add something, and then that carries over for 2. But in Lord of the Rings, the big bad is this shadowy reference that we don't talk about in the first movie. In the second movie, the shit's real. In the third movie, he's done.
Yeah. But I mean, like, in Lord of the Rings, everyone has their own amount of epic to them.
Yeah.
Like, the world is just, it's accepted that, like, warfare is their bread and butter in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much in Pirates of the Caribbean.
No.
Watch the first movie, and what the bread and butter in that movie is, betrayal, conniving.
Yeah. No, this is...
I
think you touched on something that's really big, is that the epicness is everyone's got their little piece of it. It's evenly spread.
Yeah.
So sure. Some people's bits of epicness are bigger than others, but they all come together to make a very satisfying whole.
Yeah.
And that the reason that some people's bits of epicness are bigger than others is because their role in the story is bigger than others, not because they're the better actor or they're the better paid actor or they're the prettiest. Thankfully Orlando Bloom didn't get a lot of attention.
He got enough.
It's exactly it. Everyone got enough.
So this conversation works into my top movie, which is the rival trilogy, pretty much.
Yeah, it is. I think that's a fair assumption.
Empire Strikes Back.
Amen.
And no, not Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. It's Empire Strikes Back.
Easy, fanboy.
Matt killed a baby bunny over it.
They're all hibernating.
What can I say about this that you don't already know?
This is the best of the 6 movies, in my opinion.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I got the original trilogy. Okay, I'm not going to say that. I got the only trilogy worth talking about at a very young age, and this was the movie. Empire Strikes Back was the one that I would watch over and over and over. And I only watched the other two to get a break from this one.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
This was really the first one I was exposed to. I remember when they were re-releasing them in theaters, and my mom and dad and I went, and I was 9, and it was either Star Wars, the first one was packed or something, or it was already playing, or Dad was like, I've seen that too many times, this one's better.
I suppose.
And I remember being like, it seemed like it was louder than every other movie I've ever gone to in the theater, and which was exclusively Disney movies at that point in my life. But
yeah.
So there was that element that just made it seem like it was on another level. This was kind of the beginning of the end for Star Wars, which means that it was becoming immortally commercialized, which means that it's,
the magic is gone.
Well, that, and, it's considered, untouchably classic. But, it actually is. That's one of the things about it. Like, I think the prequels are supposed to be considered untouchably classic because they're connected to this trilogy, but...
Because they have the word Star Wars on the front, and that's it.
And because they're completely enmeshed in the immortal commercialization of it, and immortally iconic. But really, the first 3 movies that were made are the ones that are iconic, and the ones that matter, the ones that are actually good, the ones that tell a story.
Yeah.
And I think there's something about humans that just really likes the movie where everything goes wrong, like in Return of the King and like Empire Strikes Back, and
we like conflict.
Yeah,
and there's plenty of it.
And I think that's kind of why this one's considered to be the best one. The first movie always has its place, and the thing about Star Wars is that the first movie had such an impact on so many people when it came out that experience can't really be replicated.
Yeah.
But
I feel comparing it's all part of an overarching story, and they're part of a trilogy, but they're parts. So the first movie you can't really compare to the second movie because they're different parts of the story. It's like comparing, the beginning of this story is better than the middle of that story because, that doesn't make sense. You're comparing different parts. It's apples and oranges.
Yeah. But they do stand alone by themselves.
Yes.
Maybe Return of the Jedi not as much, but I feel like if Empire Strikes Back, like if you are someone who just doesn't get Star Wars, you'd really only need to watch Empire Strikes Back to get it. Yeah.
Well, there's nothing that carries over from the last movie.
And I'm sure if I was alive in 1977, it'd be Star Wars and not Empire Strikes Back. But because I didn't have that initial experience, and this is the movie where they kind of knew what they were doing a little bit better. They weren't completely terrified about getting it done and if they were going to get shut down or if anyone was going to see the movie or, this was kind of more of a guaranteed thing.
Yeah.
They're a little more confident.
They're riding on the wave of the success of the first, and they say, well, at least it'll get paid for.
Yeah.
Because so many people are going to go see it, even if no one likes it.
It's kind of it was a very good time as far as the behind-the-scenes stuff goes, where they were relieved from all the tension that was detrimental to the first film, and they weren't yet complacent.
Yeah. Yep.
They still had the gall to shoot in Nova Scotia or wherever.
Yeah. Okay, and when Matt says they, I hear George Lucas. We could get into my issues.
And his peeps.
But we're not going to. But no, you're right. They were feeling their oats. They were confident, but they weren't cocky. They kind of knew what they could do, but they also knew what they wanted to try. and they had the competence to go out and try it. So shooting in Nova Scotia,
Mm-hmm.
and getting 30 men to stand in that cold for God knows how many takes.
One.
Probably. I still maintain that they rang the lunch bell, and that's what got them all to run out of that trench.
But so, you see, all my movies are really, there's 3 sci-fi movies and 2 indie feel-good yet dark comedy movies. And so with that in mind, Empire Strikes Back is dark and sci-fi. So you can see why it'd be at my number 1.
Yeah. To sum up my list, I've got a lot of action. I'm looking at this, and there's enough action in The Return of the King for anyone who likes a good hack and slash. And the cowboy way is cowboys. You don't put cowboys in New York City without some fist flying. Kill Bill, we talked about the violence already. Shawshank Redemption has got some action, but I wouldn't call it remarkable by any stretch of the word. And then the action in Catch Me If You Can is mostly DiCaprio running.
It seems like that you can divide your interests in this top 5 into 2 things, where your adeptitude, help me out here, aptitude at a weapon is law.
Yeah. Or
your aptitude at just figuring stuff out is the way you survive.
Yeah, it's
your ability to adapt to the situation.
They all have to do with human will. As I think about this now, not necessarily with will. Okay, I'm not going to dwarves and elves. We could argue the actors are human. Oh,
oh God.
The guy who plays Gimli is 6'4". I want to throw that out there. Anyway, no, they all have to do with, the will to do good. In the cowboy way, it's the will to catch the man who killed your friend and bring him to justice and save your friend's daughter.
Kill Bill is about the will to do good?
The cowboy way. Kill Bill is the will to kill. She's on a revenge mission, and it's the will to follow that through no matter what that takes. She kills 80 people.
In one scene.
And that doesn't detract from her desire for revenge. And Catch Me If You Can is this will to... It starts, his motivation is to gain back everything that the IRS took from his father. And then it just kind of...
escalates.
He gets that far and then can't stop. And then it's the will to change my ways. Be a better man. Shawshank Redemption, fighting spirit. We talked about it. It's just his he refuses to be beaten by the system.
Might have to do an episode on Gurren Lagann.
Might. We'll get there.
All right. Yep. It's inevitable.
And then will of good over evil for Lord of the Rings.
So it's all about the will.
Pretty much.
Willpower.
Mm-hmm.
Just whatever you need to do, you do it.
Having the strength and the drive and the intelligence or aptitude to do it.
Whatever gets in your way, you cut it down with a katana. Or a gun.
Or you go around it.
Or you use your brain.
You deal with the situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good
talk, Kyle.
Yeah.